President Trump is fairly concerned about some of his Democratic contenders, which is why apparently he makes up nicknames. Now, according to a report from Politico, Trump believes that the election will come down to four different states: Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Now, those are some of the Rust Belt states, with the exception of Florida, that Donald Trump picked up over Hillary Clinton in 2016. Now, some of those states, I think with the exception of Florida, Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden actually have a pretty good shot at stealing from President Trump. Now, Michigan, in the primary, went for Bernie Sanders. That was one of the huge upsets. So Bernie Sanders could actually do very, very well here in this state. So now for Trump, he looks at that and he's like, oh no, oh no. In fact, according to someone who knows Trump, quote, he talks about it a lot. With Trump, everything is personal. For Trump, a lot of the day is spent trying to assess the weaknesses of the other candidates. So, of course, he's looking at it as, I got to find the weakness. I know what the weakness is. I'm going to call him a nickname. Okay. Now, one of the candidates that I think that he might have been worried about, for at least a little bit, was Elizabeth Warren. Now, why is that? Well, look, Elizabeth Warren scared him a little bit because she is very smart. She's smarter than he is. Much smarter. And I think has more popularity than he is. And so, not only that, but she is a strong woman, and Donald Trump is an incredibly weak man. So, okay, there's that. So now he came up with a nickname for her, Pocahontas, right? So now Elizabeth Warren's made a lot of missteps. She did the whole ridiculous DNA thing, and she kind of bought into it, right? Which I think was a huge mistake. She should have ignored that because it was ridiculous and focused on attacking him when it comes to policy. For example, maybe how he supports drilling and, oil drilling or pipelines in native lands. If you really wanted to go down that route, right? So no, but she doesn't. But that's okay. Actually, not okay. But we can get into that another time with some of the problems with Elizabeth Warren. But nonetheless, after he came up with that nickname, Pocahontas, which is a Native American slur, by the way, he thinks, problem solved. I called her Pocahontas, and now she's literally been destroyed. Really? Okay. Now, as cringy as that whole thing was, by the way, Elizabeth Warren is running a very good policy-centric campaign. Now, she's in about third or fourth place, depending on the polls in the Democratic primary. Okay. Now, her policies, incredibly popular, as are the policies of Bernie Sanders. Now, Trump's really worried about the two frontrunners, right? So now the frontrunners are Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, right? Now, occasionally, Trump will comment on one or the other, Crazy Bernie or Sleepy Joe, the source told Politico. No, wait, Sleepy Joe? Sleepy Joe, that's it? I mean, he had so many great possibilities with Joe Biden, and he went with Sleepy Joe. Come on, you can do better than that. Really? But anyway, okay. As for Bernie, Crazy Bernie. I know, it's so crazy. The guy wants to give you health care for everybody, Medicare for all, and, a free college and a living wage. Crazy. What a crazy guy. I know. No, look, if you've ever wondered, like I said, why he comes up with these ridiculous nicknames, well, just listen to the source. Trump believes that if you can encapsulate someone in a phrase or a nickname, you can own them. Literally owning the libs. Okay, then. So his examples are Low Energy Jeb and Little Marco. The source said, that kind of stuff really diminishes people and puts you in control of them. And that's what Trump is a genius for doing. He's a genius. No, wait, Donald Trump is a genius for coming up with Little Marco? Really? Now, imagine thinking That guy is a genius tactician because he calls someone low energy or Sleepy Joe. I've heard better disses on the playground. Seriously. But okay, man, whatever. Now, what's interesting in what Donald Trump thinks is the real threat. Now, the source said that the president is most worried about the economy faltering before the election. Now, like, Donald Trump is very uniquely situated here on what appears to be a pretty good economy, right? And so now if you go back, I don't remember who came up with the saying, but it's the economy, stupid, right? So generally, when the president presides over a pretty good economy, he has a better and better chance of winning. Now, Donald Trump is extremely unpopular despite having what would be considered to be a really good economy. So that, I think, kind of throws the conventional rule book out the window, right? I mean, nope, like, he has never peaked 50%. Ever. His entire term, despite what is good, considered to be a really good economy. So that's really strange. That's really strange. Okay. Anyway, now the president, according to the person, the source telling Politico, looks at it at his main threat as the Federal Reserve. So his main threat is the Federal Reserve. The Fed. Now, why? Why is he mad at the Fed? Apparently, they have said, we need to raise interest rates. Now, apparently, when you have a good economy, the response from the Fed is to maybe slow down inflation, etc., even though we're not really at risk of inflation, by raising interest rates. Okay? Look, I'm not an economist, so I'm not exactly 100% sure how that works. But Trump, he thinks, no, that's going to ruin my economy. That's going to slow everything down. You can't do that. You can't do that. Oh, no. How dare you raise interest rates? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to appoint people to the Fed. So that's how you had Stephen Moore, right? And also, I did a segment on Herman Cain, but I think he's out of the running now because he would have been a disastrous pick for one, and for two, maximum disaster. Okay, anyway, same reasoning. Stephen Moore, also a disaster. I talked about him and some of his previous thoughts, and the fact that he's not even qualified to be on the federal board, the Federal Reserve Board. So, but this is why Donald Trump wants to replace people on the Federal Reserve. Lackeys who will not raise interest rates. Okay. All right. Now, the economy, at this point, the good economy is pretty much all he has, which I pointed out is not really a good economy. Now, this economy is leaving people behind. Now, unemployment is down. Some new job figures just came out, right? And, hey, they're pretty good. Lowest unemployment in 49 years. Wow, look at that. Now, lots of jobs, right? However, inflation, look, wages are just above inflation, right? So now, despite the promises of the tax cuts, which for the most part went to the wealthy, right? Healthcare and prescription drug costs are still incredibly high. Oh no, so that's problematic, right? Student loan debt is crippling would-be home buyers. Mortgages are out of reach for a lot of people living in the big cities, especially. There are still significant issues, economic issues, left over from the Clinton, Bush, Obama economy that Trump hasn't fixed. And by the way, this is continuing the economic streak from the Obama years. Trump has literally done pretty much nothing to help or hurt actually he's done some things that you would think would hurt the economy more than it actually did, including the trade war with China. Nonetheless, seems to be humming along. But anyway, what has continued, Trump has continued, is neoliberal trickle-down economics. So his entire economy, I think, is based on a house of cards, and at some point, it's going to collapse. And yet, Trump is still deeply unpopular, despite the fact that on the surface, everything looks great. Now, the only reason that he won this election is that he went up against someone massively less popular than he is. The only chance that he has to beat the Democrats again is if they put up somebody who is very unlikable, a centrist politician. Now, I mean, they're not dumb enough to do that again, right? And we saw what happened in 2016. Oh, right. One more thing here. Now, one person who knows Trump says he doesn't think he's worried about losing to any of the Democratic candidates. But another source says he may be overconfident. Quote, Trump has a very bad sense of danger. Well, yeah. Now, look, why do you think that is? Well, it's because he's never had to face consequences in his entire life. He never gets in trouble. He's Teflon Don. Somebody either always bails him out, like his dad, because of his privilege, and maybe the fact that he is also supposedly wealthy. He ends up not actually getting punished for this. I mean, right now, to show you how this continues to be true, Nancy Pelosi refuses to do anything, refuses to do her job in holding Trump accountable. She calls impeachment for Trump too good for him. What? What does it even mean? How can you be too good for this, right? How is Trump facing possible repercussions for crime, right? For his crime, for lying to Congress, from doing campaign finance violations, from the emoluments clause. How is any of that, or going after him for any of that, too good for him? Maybe, look, I've got a nickname suggestion for Donald Trump, right? That he should use. Maybe he should go after Nancy Pelosi and call her Spineless Nancy. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.